And welcome back to our live stream. I am hosting again today, so it's so good to see everybody's faces. We're really excited to get started. So as we're inviting people to join our live stream, today's topic is a day in the life of each position at a tech company, which is fantastic, super exciting stuff. So we're gonna wait. We have our classic creators that are joining us today that we know and love, and we also have a special guest. Her name is Delia, or if you probably know her as, I think it's Tech Unicorn is what she goes by, which is fantastic. So we're really excited to chat with her and get to know a little bit about her background as well. So I'll give the creators a couple minutes to get started here and join our live stream, which is super exciting. So I'm gonna go see if I can invite some creators to this live stream today. So I have one coming on. This is super great. And then we'll wait for joining. Hi, Dweez. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How about yourself? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can't see the live though. It said it's paused.
It's paused. Okay, can you see it now?
Now I can see you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just looking for Delia on our chat here, and I'm also looking for Ziad. So I'm just gonna try to go find them really quick and see if I can invite them to our live stream, which would be awesome. Um, I haven't been on here in a while, so I always forget how to work
Yeah,
around.
people were asking last week, where is the host? Where's the host?
I'm
Yeah.
back!
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So we'll wait for Delia to jump in the live, but we can get started with a couple questions while we wait for her. Hi, Ziad, how are you?
Hey guys, doing pretty good. How about you?
Good, it's good to see you. I feel like they changed the interface of the live stream today, so it's interesting to see it from my end. It's a couple different colors. And everybody can hear me okay? And perfect. Okay, right on. Well, how was everybody's day today? I'll start with some table talk while we wait for Delia to join in.
Doing pretty good. Yeah, what about you, dudes?
Yeah, same. It's been pretty chill. Just wrote some scripts for the videos for this week.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was about it. And yeah, the live, of course.
Nice, that's fantastic. Well, while Delia is jumping in the chat, I will start with a couple questions here, and then I'll invite her when I see her invite pop up. So we'll start with so the topic today for people that are just joining is the day in the life of each position at a tech company. Oh, and look, Delia's here. Hi, Delia, how are you doing?
Hey, good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Fantastic. So
Sweet.
we'll jump right into the questions. I was just telling everybody that our topic today is a day in the life of each position at the tech company. So I'll throw this first question as Ziad here, just because him and Dweez are OG creators, and then we'll pop up over to you after Delia. So the first question I have for us is, what do people in tech usually do to start their day? Like, is it sprint? Is it like brewing a cup of coffee? Like, you can start from jumping out of bed in the morning, wherever you want to start.
Sure. My day usually starts. I work remote right now, so it's as easy as hopping on Zoom calls from, even phone sometimes if I'm feeling extra lazy. But for the most part, the company I'm currently at, we usually have stand-ups in the morning, and what stand-ups mean is that you just go around the room basically and just like give a little quick update about what you're working on, and if there's anything like blocking you, for example, or if you need some approval or on something. But for the most part, it's usually pretty quick. It's like a meeting that's intended to be short and just giving quick updates about what everybody's working on. And they're also usually helpful, so you're like aware of what the team's goals are and you're kind of in sync with everybody. And that's especially important, especially when you're working like remote specifically, since you don't see everyone in the office around you and stuff like that. So it's helpful to know what everybody's working on. But that's usually like a 15 to 30-minute meeting, depending on what we're talking about. But that's usually, yeah, like how my day typically starts.
That's awesome. And I have to ask, are you a coffee or are you a tea person? Like, do you start with a cup of coffee in the morning?
I'm not a caffeine person like at all actually, so I don't drink coffee or tea. Yeah, no, I like literally there's usually incentives at tech companies where it's like, we have maybe even a barista or something like that and everybody's always like happy and I'm like, it's cool like yeah. But no, I'm not a tea or coffee person.
That's so fair. I'm going to make that a mandatory question as far as our live stream today. Are you a coffee person or are you a tea person? So if you're in the chat, make sure you drop like if you're a coffee or tea. I am personally coffee with cream and sugar because I'm a Starbucks person. So as much sugar as you can pump into that. Louise, I'm going to throw this question to you. So what does a day look like in tech for people that usually start their day? And you can take it as like from a tech creator point of view as well.
Yeah, so when I wake up, because I usually spend my day sitting behind the computer, I like to start off with some exercising. So yeah, I just grab a workout in the morning. I do not drink coffee. Also, I am not a caffeine person. I It's like poison for me. So I skip that. But yeah, I usually do that. Then when I get back home, I usually start working, so around 9:30. And yeah, that's how I start off my mornings.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic. And then what does your day look like throughout the day? Like if you want to give us like a quick run through of what it looks like.
Yeah, so yeah, after I get back home, I usually start brainstorming ideas. If I haven't done that in the previous days, then after I brainstorm my ideas, I look into like what type of scripts I can write. Um, I try to keep it short though with work. Like I try not to work for like a prolonged period of time without taking breaks. So in between, I go for a walk outside. I just feel so much better after I take walks. It's incredible. It's like a hidden superpower everyone should use. So yeah, I then when I get back home, I usually work on other things, mostly related to my own account or side projects that I have. Or I could just continue working on and making videos, for example. It depends on how I feel on that day. I do set hard deadlines for myself though that I have to finish at the end of each day throughout the week. So because yeah, it's we make a lot of videos. Yeah, 10 videos a week. That's in my opinion, that's quite a bit. So I really created a system of things I can do around that throughout my day, so I survive. Yeah.
Definitely. That's a fantastic walkthrough of like what a day in the life looks like for like a tech creator. So thank you for sharing that. Delia, I'm gonna throw this question right back to you, but I'm gonna start with, are you a coffee person or a tea person?
Definitely coffee. Like I had 3 coffees today, and otherwise I would not function very well, which is sad. I wish it wasn't like that. But, you know, getting tech jobs where there's free coffee and baristas and stuff, you get sucked into it and then you become addicted. So
That's
I'm slowly trying to wean myself off of it. So 3 is like a good number.
I feel like that's so fair. That is totally understandable. 3 throughout the day and you're just keep going. I feel like coffee is just a placebo at this point. It doesn't even work. But I'm gonna throw this question back to you. So, what do people in tech usually do when they start your day? So I know you can pull on previous experience, you can pull on your current experience, wherever you want to start. We just want to know kind of what people usually do to start their day in tech.
Yeah, so for my current and previous experience, like the first thing I do, I mean, I have a morning routine. So unrelated to work, I like to have a morning routine where I do separate things. But my first work item is always to get to inbox zero. If you guys know what that is, it's like clearing out your inbox until there's absolutely nothing there. And there's like a system for it. And if you don't do it, you should look it up because it's beautiful. So that's always been my like first thing that I like to do in all my roles, just because it's like, clear mind, clear desk, ready to start the day. And then, like my job now, I recently switched roles and it's way more relaxed and unconventional, and we don't have stand ups and barely have any meetings. So I kind of just do whatever like is on my to do list, and I organize myself typically in Trello. I do check my Slack too, sorry. So check my email and my Slack. And yeah, and then I just kind of go through all of the like to do items. And I mostly I rarely work with my team actually. I'm very like solo. So it's very easy to keep myself organized. And then at the end of the day, I'll like check in with my team and be like, this is done. This is what's left. And that's kind of how my day goes. and agreed, take lots of breaks. I like to go for walks and do stuff in between. Obviously, I don't spend all day on my to-do list and nothing else, but yeah, it's very different than my old team where we would have meetings. Like, I swear I had like 5 meetings a day, and I would have one-on-ones and stand up and so many different things. So honestly, it really depends on which team you're on and what company you're with, because my day now looks totally different than my day like a few months ago. So yeah, that's what it looks like now.
Fantastic. So at the start of the day when you're going through emails too, like do you prioritize like, okay, I really need to get this done, but I've been putting it off for forever, like, or you just kind of work through like it as whatever it's on your list?
Oh yeah, no, it's all like Kanban and priority levels for my emails or for to-do lists. Sorry.
That's so fair. That's awesome. I just wanted to specify a little bit more. That's fantastic. I do that too.
Oh yeah, everything is prioritized.
Totally. It's hard to see like what's not on priority. I feel like if it's on your task list, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Awesome. Okay, I'm looking in the chat. We have lots of team coffee people, lots of team tea people. I'm still curious to know what's going to come out at the end. We have somebody taking notes of which team is kind of going to win at the end of this. So the next question I have for our creators here is, what positions are there in a tech company? So run us through a list, and you can take experience from your own companies that you've worked for, or ones that you're currently in, or again, if you're just like a content creator, like I know Dweez is, team of one. So yeah, just run us through a list of people that work in tech. I'm going to start with Zia.
Yeah, talk about the people that I work with closely. So I'm your like typical software engineer. So I'm the one that's typing the code, and the people I work closest with are definitely like designers, because I do a lot of front end work. So it's like a lot of back and forth between people that are working in like Figma or a similar program that are like. There's communication that's happening with like what's actually buildable and also like what looks appealing and stuff like that. The other folks are product managers. So if you don't know what a product manager is, they're kind of I like to think of it as like sort of like the CEO of the team, while the engineering CEO of the team. So the product manager is the one that's kind of handling all, like making sure everybody that's involved in an engineering team is like aligned on the same page. So that means like the software engineers, the designers, the the like salespeople, stuff like that. Making sure we're basically all on the same page. So they're the ones that you go to with like, why are we building this? Like what are customers saying about this feature. They're the ones also like planning roadmaps for the most part. At least that's how it works in my company. These roles kind of differ, by the way, from company to company in terms of like what each role is responsible for. But at the company I'm working for, the engineering managers are the ones you go to for like, how do we build this, like how, like the technical decisions that need to be made, things like that. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, the people that I'm most involved with, like designers, product managers, and engineering managers. There's other people that you'll talk to every now and then. Like, for example, we have a role called like a UX researcher, and they like really try to sit down with customers as much as possible when we're like building products. And sometimes they're like demoing certain features and seeing how people are reacting. So, for example, if you work at like Instagram and their Instagram is thinking of like a new button to add like on a page or something, a UX researcher might like go and like walk through what that might look like with like a real user of Instagram, and then like deliver that feedback back to the product managers or the engineering managers, and then they like prioritize the tasks that kind of come out of that, and the software engineers go out and build those things. So that's kind of a brief overview. Obviously, like within a tech company, there's so like it's not just tech people. Like there's people that work in business and sales and marketing and stuff like that. But on like the tech side of things, the most common roles are definitely like engineering managers, product managers, designers, and the software engineers themselves. So yeah, hope that gives a little bit of an overview.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was a really in-depth, great overview. Thanks for sharing that, Ziad. For people just joining us today, where our topic today is a day in the life of each position at a tech company. So if you have questions revolving around that topic, absolutely throw them in the chat and we'll answer those type of questions today. And we're here now because there's time change with daylight savings. So we're here at 10:30 a.m. PST every Wednesday. So make sure you give us a follow so you get that notification because we are always here and answering your questions. So Dweez, I'm going to throw this back to you as well. What positions are there in a tech company? If you can run us through a list, that's great. Or you can just do it from your own perspective.
Yeah, so I think Siad covered like a lot from the technical side. I don't have much to add on that apart from the technical team. You also have the non-technical team, like us right here, for example. We do a coding boot camp at Practicum, but we are on the Practicum team themselves. We are not developers, so you have that as well. So there's like many ways to work in tech. Of course, we teach here to get here the job as an engineer or a data analyst, data scientist. These are other examples of positions you can find at a tech company. But yeah, there are both sides to it. It's not just all technical people. There are also non-technical employees working at a tech company, and that's why it's also important that both sides can communicate with each other, right? It's important that findings, results, or whatever is communicated. So you do need to have a bit of knowledge, even if you are non-technical, a bit of knowledge. But yeah, I think these are also other important members of the team at a tech company.
Yeah, totally. That's a great answer. So Ziad just is letting me know that he got booted from the chat there, so he's gonna join back in right away here. I think his Wi-Fi just cut out. So Delia, I'll go back to you for this. So can you walk us through the positions in a tech company from who you work closely with would be a good one?
Sure. Ziad did a great job and walked through like most most of them. I would add also a tech lead. I know that's in only some companies, but usually in the bigger companies where they scaled so much on their engineering team, it's usually divided into like smaller engineering teams. And that's when you would have a tech lead, which isn't really like a software engineer manager or any of the other jobs mentioned before, because they still code. So like when I first joined my last team, my tech lead, I was under the impression that they were like an engineering manager, but
Delia got booted down. Oh no.
Sorry, am I still there?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sorry. I also I have a time limit, so sorry, I reached my time limit. I forgot to take it off. Anyway, that's another big thing for day in the life, set your time limits on your apps. Maybe not during live streams, but anyway, as I was saying, tech lead, also a really cool role, though obviously you have to work your way up to it, but I was surprised that my tech lead wasn't like a engineering manager at all and was coding like way more than I expected. And it's a really cool role because you're leading the engineering efforts, but also contributing to it at the same time. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, in my opinion. And another role, which isn't mentioned a lot, is similar to my like previous role, which was TSE, Technical Solutions Engineer, which is kind of like SRE. Like people don't talk about SRE roles that much, Site Reliability Engineer. But it's a cool role because you're kind of like the on-call engineer all the time. So when production goes down, you're the person to call, you get to troubleshoot everything. And it's kind of a high stress position, but it's really cool because you can work on stuff like when times get rough. And it's very interesting as well. Those are the roles I would add, but otherwise, like Ziad mentioned, the whole hierarchy.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add as well. I think like we have something called an architect, which is kind of like what Delia described as like the tech lead. That's kind of what we have at our company, and they like there's two types of like architects that we have. There's the folks that are actually hands-on, like very much coding and involved, and they'll usually handle like new projects, for example, things that are like up and coming, and they'll have like a lot more experience. Obviously, like they probably have built many things before, or designed like pretty big systems. But then like the architects on like pre-existing projects at our company, they're mostly like they're more there to like help support like engineers. So like, you know, new engineers are coming into a pretty big system. They'll have like QA sessions, and they'll like make sure to be very involved in like making sure that all the engineers are supported. And that kind of like melds. It sits somewhere in between like an engineering manager and like a senior software engineer. But yeah, like I definitely, a lot of companies have that model where they'll have like an engineering manager who will be in charge of like the administrative kind of stuff, like, you know, the hiring, the staffing, all that kind of stuff. And then the architect or like tech lead, which is more of like the mentor, or like a more developed engineer that'll help guide the other folks along as well.
That's a great explanation. I hope that people are finding a lot of value in this, because I know when we were discussing what topic that we would do, it's just helpful to know like what actually happens in tech, because I feel like tech is really scary to say sometimes, because it just like sounds very complicated. So I'm glad that you guys are going to depth with these things, because some of these things I'm also just finding out for the first time. So that's super helpful. We have our first question in the chat here. Does anybody, and it kind of relates, I guess, to your day-to-day progress, but does anybody use Scrum in their projects?
I've never worked with Scrum before.
Yeah, or Delia, have you guys worked with Scrum before?
Loosely, not the traditional definition of Scrum, though I feel like very few teams actually do the like traditional definition of Scrum. But you know, we do like bits and pieces of it. So like stand-ups, and you know, taking an agile approach rather than a waterfall approach to the development cycle, and iterating and all that stuff, but not like officially.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat. Like most of my work has been like closer to like new projects and startups kind of roles. So it's been like, yeah, like we'll have sprint planning sessions and stand up meetings and stuff like that. But I know that a lot of people, like especially either in school or in boot camps, will like learn a very rigid definition of Scrum, and a lot of people even online will say like I'm a Scrum master and stuff like that. And yeah, like the methodologies that are taught in Scrum are very important, but I think it's pretty rare nowadays that like people are following like 1, 2, 3 and all that from Scrum. So yeah.
I've heard the same thing from talking with other people in tech, with even practicums companies. So I feel like that's pretty accurate across the board for most companies. I also just wanted to give a huge shout out. Thank you for all the gifts. If you guys like the creators' answers, you're absolutely welcome to shoot them a gift. I know we have a competition every time. I don't know if we've been doing this in the time that I've been away, but we at the end we just see like who kind of won based on how many gifts they were given. So it's really exciting. And just to reiterate, we're here every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. PST. So make sure you give us a follow, because we have a great educational and actually quite a few funny videos on our account. I very much enjoy them in my free time as well. Fantastic. So we'll jump into our next question here. These ones are going to be a little bit more specific because I feel like they're job-based. So feel free to just jump in and answer whichever one you'd like. So we're going to talk about what a day in the life looks like for a software engineer, a data analyst, and a data scientist. So does somebody want to start with a software engineer?
I could probably take this one. Yeah. So typically, as I said earlier, like my start to the day is usually straight into stand up. My team is pretty distributed, so we have people like in a lot of folks in the East Coast and like Toronto and kind of those areas. So my stand ups are usually quite early, like 8 a.m. for me is like semi early. So that means like, you know, I'll do stand up first, and then I'll get to kind of the things that you guys talked about, like checking emails and Slack messages and things like that. Then usually, because it's more of a remote environment, I will usually be like hands down like coding for a few hours, give or take. And usually, like, that coding process isn't just like you alone, but I'll be like communicating with someone else, maybe like having like spontaneous Zoom calls to like collaborate on something. And that'll like I'm usually very productive like in that morning time, so like 10 to 12 or so. And since my team is distributed, like when it hits, like 1 p.m. for me, like it's like 4 p.m. for most of my team, so like that is like the end of the day. So I definitely want to like get as much work in as possible in the morning, so if I have like questions or I need to like work with someone on something, then I can like pretty easily communicate with them. um at like 12 to 1 ish is when I'll usually like take like the first kind of big break. Like I'll grab lunch probably. I usually like to like hit the gym at that time and go for either go for a walk or actually go to the gym. And after that, it usually depends on the day, but I'll probably have like some meeting, like actual official meeting or so, like in that time frame, either with like a manager or with a designer about something. And these are more of like the actual scheduled meetings rather than the spontaneous ones I mentioned earlier. So that'll probably like on average, I'll have one of those meetings a day for like an hour or something somewhere in the afternoon. And then after that, it really just depends. Like if I'm like behind on something, that'll be like my kind of like do not disturb time since everybody else is usually offline or already done with their day, or I'll just like stick Slack somewhere in another window for a little bit and get whatever I need to do done. And I'll usually finish my day around like four to five ish. I'm like I've worked at two companies so far, and like the first company was definitely less of a work life balance. Like I was definitely working like 9 to 10 hours on average. But the company I'm at right now is much more flexible from that end. So I can like end my days around like 4 on average and be pretty fine. After that, I'll usually like either hang out with friends or just take time to myself or something like that. So that's day in my life, software engineering wise.
Definitely. That's a fantastic overview, honestly. I even like at the end of your day, like hang out with friends. Like I feel like the work-life balance probably doesn't get mentioned enough in tech because people probably assume that everybody's always at their computer coding at all times of the night, especially when you see those amazing setups in the dark with the lights behind the computer. It's like it's not always like that. It's sometimes like that, but definitely people in tech have an awesome work-life balance. And I actually have a next question about that after, but I want to still touch on data analysis and data science. If somebody, maybe Delia or Dweez, want to jump in, or if you don't want to jump into those topics, you can continue to touch on software engineering as well. So maybe we'll start with Dweez and then we'll go to Delia for data analysis, data science, or back to software engineering.
Yeah, I don't know how that a day of a yeah, I don't know how that would look like because I am not a data analyst or a
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Well, do you want to touch on well, I guess you kind of already touched on the full day in your life, but um, yeah, well, I feel like that's an overview answer, Dweez. Sorry, I'll throw the next question to you. I'll go to Delia for this one, and then we'll come back to you, Dweez, right away with a new question that I know you'll be able to answer. So Delia, do you want to touch on any of those data, or do you want to go back to software engineering? You can also go to like QA or anything else.
I mean, I would love to, but I was never a data scientist or a data analyst, so I don't want to give a wrong answer. But I can talk about software engineering day in the life forever. Yeah, so like now my day in the life is very inaccurate to what a normal day in the life of a software engineer would be, I think. So I'm just gonna share my last one because it's more accurate. Because now I'm like I have days where I like code for like 12 or 14 hours straight, and then days where I'm like not doing anything at all. So that's not very accurate. But in my last role, my day would be like I'd still say maybe only 30 to 40% actual coding. Like a lot of the day gets eaten up by random meetings and planning and OKRs and all this other random stuff that you don't really like think that you're signing up for as a software engineer. You're like, oh, I want to code. And then it's like, nope, you can't because you have all these meetings and things like that. So anyway, the day usually starts with my like getting to inbox zero. And then I have like several one-on-ones with people from my team and also with my manager, not every day, just like um, in a rotating schedule. So typically I have one-on-one with someone on any given day. But most people at my company would have like a block of 3 hours of focus time in the morning. And that's like a kind of unspoken rule. So it's really nice that like in the morning, nobody really contacts you. So you get that like morning chunk of time for pure coding and not like doing anything else. So I like to use that time to actually focus. And then you usually have some sort of like planning meeting, whether that's um, planning OKRs or other things. You have meetings for, well, we would have two stand-ups a week. So I didn't have daily stand-ups. That was kind of nice. But usually you'd have daily stand-ups on like most of the other software engineer jobs I've had. It was often daily stand-ups, which I actually find a little bit useless. I don't know what everybody's opinion on that is, but you're mostly just sitting there and being like, yep, still working on 3, 4, XYZ. And yeah, I would definitely prefer two stand-ups a week. I think that's really useful because it gives you enough motivation to be like, oh, I should actually do work because I'm going to have to say it in my meeting, but not too much distraction that you're like joining stand-ups for no reason. So I think that's the perfect amount of stand-ups. And yeah, then I usually try to also wrap my day around 4, like Ziad, but that rarely works. So it would be like closer to 5. And it depends on the role in the company, but like at my last company, a lot of people would still message you past 5. And, you know, sometimes I would be one of those people because I'm like scrambling to finish some kind of feature or some kind of PR. And then you have to ask people for help and it looks bad, but you would still do it. So yeah, sometimes, you know, you end a little later than 5, but I think that's beautiful. Ending at 4 is the goal. So yeah, and then I've been a digital nomad for the last few years. So after work, I like to go explore wherever I am, go outside, get off the chair, type of stuff.
Touch some grass.
Yes, touch some
Definitely.
grass
Yeah,
or
that's
water.
so awesome.
Go to the
Yeah,
beach.
or water. Or yeah, exactly. I would love to. I feel like we should have a whole live stream about like what people in tech do after work. 'Cause I feel like we were talking about this when we were content planning a couple weeks ago, but it's really interesting just to see like what the stereotypes of tech people are and then like how you guys kind of defy them in your after work life balance. So I feel like maybe that should be a topic one of these days. I also just wanted to check in. How is my audio? I've heard from a couple people that my audio is not great. How is it sounding from your guys' side?
It
Fine.
was good at first. I feel like now it got more scratchy or something.
Okay, how is that better?
Yeah, I feel like it is.
Yes, that's
Okay.
an improvement.
Okay, awesome. Next time I'll have another setup. I'm like set up on my computer. I feel like it might be blocking the mic, so I'll make sure to get a tripod for our next go around. But thank you. Thanks for chirping in the comments too. I just want to make sure everybody can hear my moderation. Fantastic. Well, that was a great overview. Thank you guys for sharing that. So Dweez, I'm gonna throw this next question to you. And I already know the answer to it, but I would love if you like maybe compared it to a previous job. But do most people in tech work remotely or from home? And my follow-up to that just escapes my mind. So I'll let you start with that, and then I'll add on another question while you're chatting about that.
Yeah, I think most people nowadays, I think the percentage of people that work remote has definitely went up for the since the past years. I think working remote in general has become more popular. More people are doing it. Um, so yeah, you have engineers that do work remote, like Ziad and Delia, for example, they work remote. But you do have days where, yeah, you have to go to the office. But to go back to the question, yeah, I don't know actually which one is more common nowadays. If it's more common for engineers to work at home or yeah, the office. I think it's still at the office. It doesn't make sense why it would not be. What do you guys think? Fill me in on that.
Yeah, on my end, I definitely like I think I've gotten in such a mentality where like I won't ever be able to go back to like a fully in office role because I've been working remote for like I only actually worked in office for like my internships, to be honest. Like I didn't even like work like a full-time job in office. And it gives you so much flexibility. Like Delia, I know you mentioned you're like traveling all the time, and like I'm like situated in one place, but I'm like able to just take spontaneous trips pretty much whenever I want, since it's like I just have to hop in Zoom calls, and I'll just have to like adjust for time zones and stuff, but that's much easier than like commuting and all that. For example, like I'm actually originally from Egypt, so like all of my family is Egyptian, and before like I remember like when I was much younger, my parents are the ones who immigrated here. So like my dad would have to like schedule times off work so that we could like go visit family, and it was such like a rough hassle. But right now, like I spent a few weeks like last year just working from there, and I was completely fine. And it was all about just like adjusting for time zone differences and stuff like that. So that was like super fun. And I think that a lot of people are definitely like that. They've gotten much more accustomed to the remote environment, especially folks who have really like realized how much like commuting actually reduces their productivity. Like if I were to have to actually go into the office, I'd have to drive like 2 hours every day round trip. So it would be like pretty bad. And also like if you live in like a lot of people in tech live in like either the Bay Area or in Seattle where I'm at, and housing and things like that is insanely expensive in those areas. So you would spend a lot more money, you'd have a lot less time, and for the most part, there's not really like that much of an increase in productivity. I feel there might be like margins. I don't know. I've read like articles that go both ways. Like some people say you're so much more productive when you're around other people, and other people are like, no, like if you're more of like an introverted kind of person, then you're much more productive at home and stuff like that. So I don't know where like it falls in terms of productivity, but I know for sure I'm like genuinely just happier like when I'm working remote and I'm able to like do so much more. So I don't think I'd ever like if I went and interviewed for a company and they're like you have to come into the office, like that's just like a deal breaker no matter like how much benefits or salary or whatever they might offer. So that's me. I don't know, Delia, you probably agree, I think. Or what do you think? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly to everything you just said. Um, yeah, I do think that percentage wise, most people are still in office, especially now because when COVID ended, we had a big RTO. And like, I don't know if you guys are on Blind or any of those apps, but like, there's so much drama about the RTO. So that's the only reason why I think that like most people are now back to the office. But yeah, me personally, since I started my career over 5 years ago, I've always been remote. And I guess that's also because like I've always been of the mentality that like you cannot drag me into an office. I've always been against the like little cubicle life, and I just didn't like the idea of it at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't think anyone, no matter what company and what, like they could be changing the world. This is gonna sound bad, but like they could be making the world a much better place, and I still won't go to an office to do it. I'm like a fully remote person all the way, and you can't change my mind about it. Um, but yeah, I do hope that in the future more companies get more lenient and like flexible with that, because it doesn't make sense for employees or companies. Like companies are spending so much money on offices that employees don't even like being in. So all the companies that I feel are going to be most successful are the ones that take like a good remote first approach. And like the company I work for now is fully remote, like no offices even exist. So you're so much lighter as a company, and I think it just makes sense. So at the same time, though, I did love going into the office when I had the opportunity. Like in my last role, I did the whole 2 hour commute Ziad was talking about, um, like voluntarily. And for some reason, when you're not forced to go to the office and you have the choice, like it just became a way more attractive option. And I would go in like
Yeah.
multiple times a week sometimes just to see my friends and my coworkers. And like, I just don't like being forced. As long as the option is there, I'll actually take it. But yeah, I think the office is good, and there's a lot of office people that need to have social interaction every day. And for those people, it's great to have a hybrid approach and things like that. But yeah, I just am kind of against the whole return to office, force everyone back in thing.
Yeah, I know. Like for example, my like a really cool thing my company's doing is that they still have like one office in Seattle, and what they're saying is that like a certain number of days in the year you just have to be like in the vicinity just in case like something happens that requires you to like go into the office. And for engineering, like this has definitely like never happened before, but like I know for example a lot of the folks that work in like the sales and marketing side, they'd like a certain like they want to know that out of the year, like if something happens in the area, like a really big client is like in town or something, and like they need somebody to go like grab lunch with them or something, they want to like know that there's just somebody like in the plus or minus 50 miles range, to be able to like go and handle whatever like business needs to be done there. They say that like for site reliability engineers, sometimes you might like need to be on site, but I know a lot of people that work in site reliability, and like I don't, none of them have ever told me that they were like forcefully like dragged like to go to the office, because of some emergency. But I've liked that rule because it like at least like it feels like it's still like they understand that a business needs to have some level of like, you know, we need to know like generally where you are, you know, just in case something happens, but at the same time they understand that it's not like like there's no requirement for you to be in the office because there's not like any huge benefit. Like for example, when they first went fully remote, when like COVID started, they saved so much money because they wouldn't have to spend any on like in office snacks or like the food that they provide for employees. I know that they used to have an office in Seattle and an office also in a city called Bellevue, which is like really close to Seattle, but it's convenient for people that live in that area. And they just like completely like closed the Bellevue office and sold the real estate and everything, and it was just saving them a ton of money for in terms of like maintaining these kind of buildings and the staff that hired there. So like Delia said, like they're spending so much money on this stuff, and like at least half of the people don't like it. So I mean, it kind of makes a lot of sense to at least either give people the option or a hybrid approach or something. You know.
Saving on overhead too, I feel like it's a big cost. Like then you can pay your employees more, and that's why tech is a great field because they always pay their employees like a pretty decent wage. I would feel like compared to other jobs. So
Mm-hmm.
great, that was a great discussion. I did not want to interrupt. That was like so interesting. Like it's really interesting listening about like corporate culture and even working remote because I know it's such a huge topic right now. So thank you guys, that was awesome. So I'm gonna run back to the chat. So we're down to our last like 10 minutes here. So if you have any last questions relating to what people do day to day in tech, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to answer a couple chat questions right away here. And we're here every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. PST because of the time change. It used to be 9:30, now it's 10:30 in the morning. So make sure you give us a follow. And if you really like the creators' answers, feel free to support them. We're still in the running here to see who's kind of going to win at the end of the day. So it's really exciting. But our first question from the chat was, do you guys work at night? So like how often, I'm going to rephrase this a little bit, like how often do you guys work into the evening? And by evening, I mean like after 6.
Yeah, so it depends. It depends also on the person and how much you do during the day, right? Like if you spend most of the day if you're working remote, this only applies if you work remote. I do not recommend anyone working at the office to work at night after 6. But it depends how much you get done and how much you want to get done. Sometimes throughout the day I don't do much, and it may occur that I do everything after 6. As a matter of fact, right now it's 7:15 for me. I just got on the live with you guys. So I wouldn't necessarily call that like heavy working, but it's more of a chill conversation we're having here. But it does happen with me that I do work after 6 if I have not done much. If the day and throughout the day I've done a lot, and yeah, I still feel productive. I'll just keep on going. But I prefer not to work at night because I'm just that type of person. I was not a night owl in high school or university, college, or whatever. So that doesn't, after 6, I'm mostly fried. My brain just stops working unless I'm feeling really productive. I do wake up early though. I work in the morning. Like I would wake up at 4:30 and start working. I like to work early. I would prefer that over working at night. How about
Totally.
you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great answer. Yeah, Ziad or Delia, do you want to jump in? Like, do you guys work at night quite often, and you guys early risers?
I am a morning person, so I am the most productive in the morning. But actually, for the last year, I've always worked after 6, and that's mainly because, like, I had to work Eastern hours, and I was in Europe. So that is kind of an exception. But I would have a kind of weird schedule where I'd work from like 2 to 11 or something like that, or at least try to be available always during those hours. And then sometimes I'd work in the morning, but I still have to be available and take meetings and things like that, like at night. Um, but yeah, now I will try not to as much. Like now, the company I work for is way more relaxed, and they don't really care about time zones. Like as long as I don't have meetings, I can just work whenever. So now I try to be a normal person and not work past 6, and it's been pretty good. But I also like doing pomodoros and things like that. So like sometimes I just feel like working at night. Like those days when it's like 8 p.m. and you're like, it would be fun, like working. So sometimes that happens too, and it's not forced. It goes back to the same thing. Like when you're not forced to do it, sometimes it's just nice to work at night.
Especially if there's caffeine involved, like you can go on, like the possibilities are
Okay, well, I try
endless, you
not to
know?
drink caffeine past 3 because that's just bad for you. But
Yeah.
I
yes,
didn't
if
know
there's
that.
caffeine, then it's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I see that comp guy in the chat has said that she loves flexible tech company, how flexible tech companies are, and I feel like that's a huge perk of being in tech is just like how flexible they are. Great overviews. Yeah, do you work very often at night? Are you more of a morning person? And in general, would you say like you work into the evenings very often?
Yeah, so I think I have two answers to this. So like the first one is like some people prefer to consistently work at like the same time. Like for example, I worked with a guy at my last company. He was like really into like fitness and bodybuilding and that kind of stuff, and he would like I think he would have like two workouts a day, like each one is like 2 hours or something like that. And he kind of communicated with his manager that like he wanted his schedule to be that he would like take a workout in the middle of the day that would be like pretty long, like so from like 1 to 3 or something, he would just be like offline. And the kind of the alternative to those working hours was that he would work like pretty late into the night. So instead of working your typical 9 to 5, he would work like 9 to 1 and then 3 to like 8 or like 4 to 8 or something like that. And that was just like his schedule. He liked it and it worked with him. There's also the alternative to that, which is like I knew a guy during an internship where he would come into the office at like 5 a.m. Like he was just that type of guy, and he would leave at like 2. And if we ever had a meeting like at 4 for then he would like join that meeting remotely from his house. Like when he was like done with everything for the day, but he would still join that meeting. So I think like if you have a specific schedule, and you communicate that with your company, and they're flexible enough for the most part, they'll be chill about it. But yeah, the second answer to that, and this is like what more applies to me. I normally I work like normal hours for the most part, like 9 to 4, 8 to 4, that kind of thing. But because a lot of my work has been like in new projects or startup kind of work, there's a lot of times where you'll have to like do a demo like the next day or like something, you're building something new and there's like pretty tight deadlines that you have to work with. Then at that time sometimes I'll like just be required to like work pretty late to get it done. I think the latest I've worked was like 1 a.m. or something, and that was because like we were working on product and like my part of it, doing just fine. And then at like 4, it like broke, and we had like a demo in front of like this the next. Okay, like this is gonna be a rough night. So like the rest of the time, like I was working in office at that time, and I went home at like 6, and it was just like a grind session to get everything like back and working. And yeah, I remember like it must have been like 12:30 or 1 or something like that. And that was like woke up the next day, did the demo, everything went fine. But that happens like frequently when you're working in that kind of role where things are like moving fast, and also there's like either designs or demos or features that you have to present, stuff like that. But that's more of an infrequent like or inconsistent basis, I guess, like if things break or if you're like behind on something. But for the most part, I definitely like do not like working after the 6 p.m. range. So, like I'll try to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes it's just like the nature of whatever you're working on that drags you into it.
Definitely, sometimes you just have to. Awesome. So we're down to our last question of the day, and Delia has to go. Do you have to go now, or do you want to answer this question before you go?
Oh no, I can actually stay. No, I just wanted to add something, but it's okay. Let's go to the next.
No, go right ahead. You can add whatever you'd like.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna add on top of that if you're on call, then you're like almost guaranteed to work late, because you kind of just have to be like, well, it doesn't matter what time it is, I'm just gonna have to work. So oftentimes I would always work late when I'm on call, just because like there's always an issue. Or for events, like our team used to support the infrastructure for a lot of websites, and on events or holidays, things like Black Friday, like you have to be available all the time. You have to work late. And I also wanted to add that a lot of companies, not so much during COVID, but like my old company would offer free dinner. So like a lot of people would get sucked into the free dinner thing and then work a little bit after, just because you're already there and people are like pinging you or things like that. So those are another 3 reasons why you might work late.
Yeah, my company during an internship offered dinner at 6 p.m. and that's like the
it's
first.
always at 6 p.m.
Yeah. Now it's like you're gonna be done at work, but like you're gonna be done with work at like 5. But then there's that question. It's like, should I go? Like by the time I get home, it's gonna be like 6 anyways, and then I'll have to cook dinner myself. So might as well just work another hour and get free dinner here. It's such like a psychology thing that
It's the
Right?
productivity dinner,
yeah.
psychological manipulation.
That's right.
That's so true. Yeah, that's hilarious. And also, I feel like supper's the hardest meal of the day to figure out what you're gonna make. It's always like you get home from work and you're exhausted, and you're like, do I want to make supper or do I just want to snack? Delia, I'm just gonna go back to you on this because this is a really interesting topic. But can you give us a couple examples of why you would have to like what an on-call shift would look like, and like what positions would be on call and why they would be on call? Because I feel like a lot of people probably don't really know about that.
Well, software engineer positions can be on call too. Like my last position, I was on call, but it would be in a rotational shift. So like for me, it was on our team, we would just like rotate through, and everyone would be on call like maybe 2 times a month or something like that. And it's different on each team, but just to make it easier to explain, I'm just going to say what my team did. So for my team specifically, being on call just meant that whenever there were any incidents reported by like anyone on the wider teams or by customers, clients, anything, because we were like internal team, but you could also potentially get client facing requests. So basically when anything goes wrong, the on-caller either tries to solve the problem right away by like creating a hot fix or doing something like that, or you just like have to be that connection between the people who can actually fix the problem. So you would either ping other teams or like, just try to resolve the problem and find a root cause, or at least just have some kind of hot fix. So that's mainly what being on call is. You're just the person that like is there to fix any production issues. As a software engineer, that usually isn't, you don't have a lot of responsibility in terms of fixing things, at least in my experience. You're kind of just there to like potentially troubleshoot the issue and, do your best to connect people. But as a software engineer, you're not really like that responsible to be an on-call unless you're like that that specific team is, yeah, unless in very specific circumstances you might be. But if you are an SRE, for example, like a site reliability engineer, then you're like super responsible as an on-call, because you're probably going to be that person that like has to fix the issue that's affecting millions of people, and it's way more hardcore and scary. And in that case, if you're an on-call, you typically have a pager, and then people like page you, and you have to be awake in the middle of the night potentially. And yeah, the incidents have different priority levels, so you have a certain amount of time in which you can respond to the incident, you know, fix it or find a root cause, and then if not, you give it to another time zone. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was a great example of that. I feel like we could probably do a whole topic around like on call and what those kind of shifts look like too. That's awesome. So we have 4 minutes left, so I'm gonna whip through this last question. So in like 2 to 3 sentences maximum, what is your most favorite part of like tech, working in tech, and your least favorite part of working in tech? In like 2 to 3 sentences max, just because we're really close on time here and I don't want to go over. So does anybody want to start or have one right off the top of their head? Their most favorite part of working in tech and their least favorite. Go ahead, Delia.
Yeah, Delia can start.
All right, simple, really easy. Favorite part, the money and working remotely. Least favorite part, that I'm literally just typing things on a keyboard all day and debugging things.
That's a great one. That is fantastic. So yeah, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my favorite part would definitely have to be things that you're typing on your computer. They're like things that I type on my computer are seen by like a lot of people that are actually getting some use out of it. So like me just like huddled in front of my screen affects real people's lives. But I would say the least favorite part is definitely that sometimes it can be like draining if you're like in front of the computer for like 8 hours. So it's one of the jobs that you have to like really out of your way to go outside and, you know, like explore and live a little. So yeah.
Definitely. That's a great answer. And Dweez, what is your most favorite part of working in tech and least favorite? And it can be as a creator if you'd like.
Yeah, favorite part, the working remote bit. Least favorite, sitting in front of the computer. That's classic.
Yeah, pretty standard across the board there. Well, thank you so much, creators, for joining us today. We're here again every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. PST, and I learn something new every single time I come here, and I'm assuming the creators do too, and everybody in the chat. So make sure you hit that follow button and give us a follow, and we'll be here next Wednesday to answer more of your questions, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, creators. We'll see you.
See you.
See you guys.